All right, here we go. Happy New Year, everybody. It's Jeff Zito, and thanks for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Streaming on Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can go back in time and check out past guests and episodes online at celebrityjobber.com. And if you wouldn't mind, please hit that subscribe button. If you like the podcast, would love a 5-star rating, and please leave a review. Where did it all start? The big question that I have for all of these celebrities, because sometimes it was a complete accident. Sometimes it was a goal of theirs when they were a little kid and they worked hard and finally achieved their goal and got their big break. So it's kind of interesting, the origin story of celebrities and how they got started. I happen to be a big fan of professional wrestling. I first got obsessed with it in the early to mid 80s. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Rowdy Roddy Piper. You know, wrestling used to be little small independent promotions in regions all throughout the country. And the WWF and Vince McMahon went national back in the early to mid 80s. And that's when the wrestling explosion pretty much happened. My guest this week is Alan Ray Sarvin, but you know him best by his ring name, Al Snow, and came up with a pretty classic in-ring gimmick where he portrayed a schizophrenic and talked to a mannequin head, which he called Head. He's been in the wrestling business for over 40 years, and he's actually one of the owners of Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW. You might remember Al from that docuseries which aired on Netflix a couple of years ago titled Wrestlers, all about the OVW, and partnered with this guy, Matt Jones, who's a pretty popular sports broadcaster based out of Lexington, Kentucky, and founded Kentucky Sports Radio, KSR, which pretty much focuses on the University of Kentucky Wildcats. And this guy is a pretty polarizing figure, to say the least, if you ask me. Regardless, we're going to talk to Al about how he got his start, what his parents did for work, and what was his first job. And the big break that pretty much changed everything as far as his life's trajectory was concerned. And he's also got a new project. He's in a movie, which I believe is coming out next week. I don't want to say former, because I still think he gets in the squared circle on occasion. Professional wrestler Al Snow is my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Hey, Al.
There we go. Hi, Jeff.
How are you, man?
Any better, I'd be jealous of myself, Jeff.
Right. So I did this today, you know, the guy putting this on, it's like, hey, you want to Zoom? And I was like, listen, if there's by chance, you know, the chance that Al is sitting there with Ed, I'm going.
Oh. I don't have a Head right here. They're in the bedroom. It's still early. They don't like to wake up early. And they'd be pretty cranky anyway. But I do have the action figure that got banned from Walmart.
That's right.
So
there it is.
Head, yeah.
Yeah, so the story with that, Al, was that some tight ass, maybe a school teacher saw Head as being maybe disrespectful or encouraging kids to hurt women somehow, and she actually got them to pull the action figure out of everywhere, right in the height.
Yeah. She was a assistant professor of all things communications at Kennesaw State College in Georgia, and because if you're a professor of communications, why would you ever do homework or research on the topic that you're going to have your opinion about in a public forum? But she showed up at a Walmart saw the action figure, thought it was a decapitated woman's head, and then wrote a letter to Walmart that the Atlanta Constitution, of course, published, stating that it was a training manual for future spousal abusers. I was like, wow,
training manual.
Yeah, and then Walmart pulled them from the shelves, and then of course, literally nationwide, every other retail store pulled them off, and it was great for me because I was literally a major news event for like about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I mean, Jay Leno had it included in his monologue. They did a story. I still have the magazine. They did like a 2-page story in Time magazine on it. So I was getting canceled before cancel culture was even a thing. I've been ahead of the curve.
You are definitely ahead of the curve.
Celebrity Jobber. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
I guess the last I heard from you was just a few years ago. Great show. I forgot where it was, maybe on Netflix. It was all about wrestling. You and this guy, Matt Jones, who's a radio play-by-play guy for the University of Kentucky Wildcats. He kind of came in. You owned the Ohio Valley Wrestling,
OVW,
and this guy who I didn't like. Okay, and
nobody does. So
it seemed like you had that kind of relationship too. So can you tell me about OVW now?
Sure.
Are you still involved? What's the deal with Matt Jones? All that.
Still involved. Still going. We produce live television outside of AEW and WWE. We're the only other company, I think, in the world that does live television every single week. And we still produce live television. We still are operational. We're still running and doing our thing. We're still running. We have a training academy that is the only one that is certified by the state office proprietary education as a trade school for professional wrestling and broadcasting in the world. Very proud of that. And we're still going on, and Matt's kind of moved to the periphery and, still around, but doesn't really come around. I think, the shine wore off and now he's not as heavily involved anymore.
Is still financially involved or
just indirectly, just kind of there,
probably the best thing, honestly.
Yeah, I think so for him too. Matt's an acquired taste. Some of us just haven't acquired it yet, but
Yes. I mean, look, all you need is to watch a few episodes of any kind of reality show to see what kind of, the guy's personality was off-putting. Let's just say that. And then when you mix in the investment into the wrestling, I mean, and it's something that you've done forever. You've got experience in this. He walks in, he's a fan of it, and walks in and thinks that he can make it successful. Right. I get it. I get why it didn't work because I watched a lot of it.
It made for great TV. It made for a great story between the two of us. That was never intended, but it was a real documentary. The director was like, hey, I just, you guys be you. I just want to capture what you do. And I'm like, don't you worry. I'll be me. And, I'm going to be the same me before you get I was before you got here. And I'll be the same one after. And they did an amazing job. The director just knew how to put it together and tell the stories of not just the company, but the wrestlers themselves. And, one of the wrestlers that was featured on that, Cash Flow, is now a series regular on Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He plays Bigfoot on Tulsa King.
Right. And, yes. I've seen him. Yes, I've seen him because he reminds me. He reminds me of Big John Studd a little bit from the old.
A little bit, yeah,
right,
yeah. Yeah.
So, I recognize
now that you mentioned that, you're right. He does kind of carry that. He's not as tall, right? But he's just as big. And so it it opened up a door of opportunities for him, and really happy for him as well.
Yeah, because in his storyline in the documentary, times were tough. He was having a tough time making ends meet at one particular point. So it looks like that might have been a really great situation for him. That's great.
Yeah, and it helped us as far as the company is concerned, and we're just keep plugging. We're actually, and I point this out, we're the second longest running weekly episodic television show in the history of the medium. The only other one that's ran longer is WWE's Raw is in front of us. Other than broadcast news programs, there's Raw, there's us, and then there's SmackDown as far as the longest episodic television shows.
Wow.
Weekly.
Wow.
So, we're coming up on our 1400th episode this year.
People don't realize this that don't live in Ohio, so.
Yeah.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. Celebrity Jobber.
I want to ask Al, the movie, I didn't, I just watched the trailer and I was like, wow, this is heavy. Now,
it's very powerful.
Are you an actor? Have you always dabbled in acting? How did you get involved with this?
I have. I don't consider myself an actor because one, I don't think I can do it very well, and two, other people seem to think so. But hey, I don't do it for a living. So like I can go to Lowe's, in my opinion, and I can change a faucet in my bathroom, but I don't think I'm a plumber. But
right.
So I'm an entertainer, and I get opportunities to be an actor and try to create these characters. And I've done a lot of acting. Some of it good, some of it not so good. But I've gotten those opportunities, and much like with this, I know people in that world. The lead actor, John Wells, who is an amazing actor, he really genuinely is, plays the father in this movie, approached me about the opportunity to be the Milk Bear. The son who suffers from has autism, has that challenge. He has a small child, had a stuffed bear. That's a mascot for a polar bear for a mascot for an ice hockey team. And then I become the figment of the John, the father's imagination, and kind of operate like Jiminy Cricket, kind of like a conscience, and help direct and guide him in dealing with the challenges with his son throughout the movie. And it's at times can be a little intense, and because it doesn't shy away from the real challenges I think that people encounter in these situations. But using the bear's character, it's my hope that it alleviates or lightens it up and adds some levity in throughout the story. So,
and the film is called The Learning Way. It's in theaters everywhere on January 16th, and 100% of the proceeds go to support families with children with autism. I think that's
absolutely
great.
You're not just supporting a great cause. I mean, and I wouldn't say it if I didn't really mean it. You're actually going to go and watch an enjoyable movie and have a real uplifting story that there are a lot of people out there that can relate to it right now. You know? And didn't mean to correct you, but it's called Learning You, the title.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Learning You. Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm autistic.
And,
I'm not autistic, but dyslexic.
But there's, it's about the single father who is facing both the personal and professional challenges of his regular life, and then trying to deal with and give his son the best life that he can, and give those experiences to him as best he can.
And it's in theaters again, January 16th, The Learning You. Al, can you take me all the way back before wrestling? I mean, can you tell me a little bit about growing up in Ohio? Can you tell me about what your parents did for work? How the hell did you end up in wrestling?
Celebrity Jobber. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
Al,
Yes.
can you take me all the way back before wrestling? I mean, can you tell
Yes.
me a little bit about growing up in Ohio? Can you
Yeah.
tell me about what your parents did for work? How the hell did
Yeah.
you end up in wrestling?
Well, I definitely, among the family, I'm the only one that ran away with the circus. Uh, all of my family, both on both sides, were just blue collar workers, um, just working in different things. My father worked in maintenance at a grain elevator in Lima, Ohio. And, my mother worked in the courts as a stenographer and as a court secretary and for a judge. And, and then I was around 14 and I proclaimed to all of my family that very proudly that I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And they all looked at me like I had 4 or 5 heads. And we're all of them summarily said, why do you want to do that? That's fake. And I was just aghast. I was like, what? I was appalled. And, and then I made the decision to do it, started pursuing it, which of course, at 14 was not going to happen. By the time I was graduating high school, things fell into place and really took a lot to convince this guy to train me and mentor me. And 1982, May 11th, I think. I always thought it was May 22nd, but I saw somebody sent me a copy of the poster. It was apparently May 11th, 1982. I had my first match in Springfield, Ohio, and the 2-ring, 20-man battle royal, and I was off to the races.
Wow. Was there another job before wrestling? Did you ever do anything else? Tell me about your first job and maybe some of the other jobs.
I took on a job at an Italian restaurant. I was a dishwasher, and I washed dishes to earn money to go to a tryout in Charlotte, North Carolina, and basically get the crap beat out of me, have my nose broken, and sent back home. So,
So worked in an Italian restaurant. Any other jobs you can remember having throughout your career? Maybe if you needed to.
Pretty much it.
That was it. That's awesome. Outside of wrestling, an Italian restaurant. It
was named Parison's Family Restaurant in the American Mall in Lima, Ohio. And I was a dishwasher back in the day, and back there just scrubbing plates, and an Italian restaurant heavy on the cheese. So
heavy cheese.
Those dishes were tough to come clean.
And a big break. Can you think of a moment where everything changed for you, Al? Was it the gimmick with Head? I mean, what was the big break that kind of launched you to become a WWE superstar?
I think, the one real moment that things started to kind of turn, because at that point in time, I had been been a professional wrestler for probably, 10, 11 years. And I had an opportunity that was born out of, I met Dan Severn, who is a UFC legend. And Dan wanted to be a professional wrestler, and I had opened up my own school in Lima, Ohio, and was training Dan to be a professional wrestler. And then the UFC started, and Dan wanted to be a part of that. One thing led to another, and he wanted somebody to train him to prepare for UFC, and I did that. It was UFC 4 out in Tulsa, and was in his corner, and I made kind of a smart remark after the second fight, because remember back then you had to fight 3 times in the same night.
Right.
It was like a tournament.
Right.
So Dan had just fought his second fight and won, and the commentator, the interviewer comes over, and I knew he was just trying to get Dan to say something to kind of, because the whole thing was about the Gracies and it was about Hoist, which was good for them, but he's trying to ask him questions about, you just won your second fight, and what are you going to do now? Like trying to get him to really put over Hoist Gracie. And Dan, at the time, probably not one of the best talkers. And I just made a smart. I said, well, he's going to go back in the locker room and have sex. What do you think he's going to do? And the interviewer just yanked the microphone away and walked away. And Jim Cornette, a wrestling legend, was at the time owned and operated Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and saw me and saw that remark I made.
Get out of here.
And then reached out to me and gave me an opportunity. And then that led, to meeting Jim Ross, who then led to an opportunity with WWF. And then me getting frustrated, going to ECW, developing the persona there, and then coming back to WWE. And
wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So it was training Dan Severn, the Beast. That quick little clip got the attention of the legendary Jim Cornette. Go ahead.
I can't encourage people enough, no matter what you're doing, just go do something, because you just never know the domino effect of that one little moment that will translate into who knows what.
That is it. The film is called The Learning You, January 16th, the legendary Al Snow. A pleasure. Thank you so much, man.
Very much. Thank you. I really appreciate you giving me the time. Happy New Year.
There you go. Al Snow, blue-collar guy from a blue-collar family in Lima, Ohio. Al says his father was a maintenance man at an elevator company, and his mother was a court stenographer. And Al said he was the only one in his family that made the decision to, quote-unquote, run away with the circus. He said he announced to everybody at the age of 14 that professional wrestling was what he wanted to do. I thought it was pretty funny. He said he's only really had one job outside of wrestling, and that was washing dishes at an Italian restaurant. And he was, just kind of still working in wrestling and trying to make ends meet. But he said that was his only real job that he's ever had outside of the wrestling business. He talked about his big break and when he was training UFC legend Dan the Beast Severn. And he said he was a professional wrestler for like 10 years at the time, but he's training Severn, and it was on one of the early UFC fights that was televised. And I guess he said something stupid on camera. And legendary professional wrestling manager Jim Cornette, you might remember him. He was the guy with the tennis racket. He ended up seeing that and ended up reaching out to Al and gave him a shot at his promotion, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which kind of led to him becoming Al Snow with Head. I thought it was such a great gimmick too, I thought it was pretty cool. Al gave a little advice at the end there, saying like, hey, look, you never know. So just get out there and do, is what Al said, because the domino effect, and it happened to him. You got to check out this trailer for his new movie. It's called The Learning You. You can go to learningyoumovie.com to check out the trailer. It's pretty heavy, and it hits theaters next week. learningyoumovie.com. So thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Past guests and episodes online, celebrityjobber.com. Follow on Instagram, celebrity_jobber_podcast, and the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/celebrityjobber. On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you listen to podcasts, please hit that subscribe button. Would love a 5-star rating if you like the podcast, and please leave a review. Once again, Happy New Year. Thanks for listening, and until next week, I'll see you then. I'm Jeff Zito.